Welcome to 60 Plus Racing Adventures, a new season, new beginnings, and we are back at Watkins, Glen, where this current era in 60 Plus Racing Adventures with the Indy Pro 2000 began a couple seasons ago. Now in its 18th season, this championship, this league, this community is for iRacers, sim racers over the age of 60, showing that age is absolutely no barrier to passion, enjoyment, and sometimes talent in sim racing. This is, of course, week one of a big season, and we're going to be covering 3 rounds here on RaceSpotTV. You join us at round 1, the beginning of a new season. Then they go to Monza, Iowa, Nordschleife, and the Hockenheimring for round 6, when we're going to rejoin them for coverage. That track, though, still to be decided. Then we got Long Beach, Daytona, Laguna Seca, Phoenix, Spa, and we'll crown a champion at Barber Motorsports Park, a great track for these cars as well. So I'm David Haynes. Joining me is Paul Smith. Paul, just 2 weeks ago, we had a look at the end of last season, and Donald Fitterer comfortably came in on top.
Yeah, he certainly did. Hello, everybody. Yeah, Donald Fitterer getting a really good championship win. It was great to be able to speak to him after that double win last time out. So he'll be looking forward to. He said to us last time, didn't he, that he's going to be taking it a little bit easier. So maybe John Morgan, Paul Stump, Stefan Rosgen maybe could get another championship. Rosadi as well. It'd be good to see how this one all pans out.
Yeah, but I can see we've got at least 3 returning champions on the grid for today's race, so goes to show could still be anyone's, but it's been Russ Addy and Donald Fitterer in what I'm going to call the modern era of 60 Plus Racing Adventures, since we switched from the Star Mazda, then Pro Mazda, to the Indy Pro 2000. This is what the day looks like at Watkins Glen. 20 degrees Celsius in the air, 28 on the track. I think that's pretty good. Plenty of sun about, even if it's officially partly cloudy. The drivers are just going through qualifying at the moment. Then they'll grid up for race 1 of 2 today. And Paul, we always have to mention what an interesting little points situation it is in this championship across the 2 races.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've never joined us for a 60 Plus Racing Adventures racing meeting, oh boy, have you got a treat for you, that's for sure. But yeah, these drivers are going to compete in 2 races across the evening, and the best result from either of those races will be the points that they take into the championship. So if we end up in a situation where we've got 2 people who win, so race 1 you get 1 winner, and then race 2 you get a different winner, well, both of those drivers are joint first into the second round of the championship. So it's a really good way of trying to keep as many people as possible involved in the races, involved in the championship, and it's really worked well for this championship over the seasons that we've covered it.
Yeah, it means it's not over until the final lap of the final race of the day. You can have a horrible race 1 and absolutely make up for it in race 2. The flip side of the coin there is you can have a great race 1, and if you don't lock out the win in both races, then someone else takes the same number of points away from that round as you do. It does appear almost everyone is done with their qualifying around this layout of Watkins Glen. It's the boot with the inner loop, with the bus stop, whatever you want to call it there, at the end of the longest straight up the hill. So the fullest, longest layout you can do here at Watkins Glen.
Certainly is, and it's a tricky track, is this, because normally the run into the bus stop, it's either you've got to be right up behind to make the best use of the slipstream, or you're just too far back and it's not quite long enough run. I've seen plenty of people sort of try and make slipstream moves into the bus stop, and it's not quite panned out for them in the past, but it can be done. You can go too wide through it. You've got to have a bit of cooperation between the 2 drivers. I've even been involved in a race where it went 3 wide through that. I would not recommend that to anyone unless you're driving a touring car, which these drivers aren't, unfortunately.
No, let's not put too much stress on anyone's heart in this race, let alone ours. So there is 30 seconds left officially of qualifying, but I can see very, very few drivers out there on track at the moment. Most of them done their laps early in the session. You can see, I want to say, as a long-time watcher of this series, something I'm happy to see, Stefan Rostjen on pole. He has not taken a championship in 4 seasons now. His last championship, season 14, but before that, absolutely dominant. Stefan Rostjen has, got to count on my hands and toes here, maybe 8 championships in 60 plus racing adventures, more than anyone else, but it's been a long time between drinks now.
Certainly has, and he'll be delighted to get himself back up there. I think it's taken him a little while to get used to the car, but we're almost getting set for the start of this race. Of course, a full pace lap here, so we've got plenty of time to go through this grid.
Of course, they're behind the Porsche safety car. I haven't yet seen that sedan, but maybe at some point. But we, of course, can have the full pace lap here leading into a rolling start. Same for both races. And the way they are going to roll into this race 1, it's going to be Stefan Rostjen on pole with Gary Bystrom alongside, Donald Poole and Ragnar Wisloff the row behind. Then John Morgan and Paul Stump on the 3rd row. As we go through, you'll notice we get a very strong mix of American drivers and European drivers in this championship. A great time in the evening in Europe, and turns out a lot of people past the age of 60 actually have a bit of free time on weekday afternoons in the US, so they join us as well. Row 4 is going to be Steve Greenwood and Kenneth Baldwin, Bill Lawrence in 9th, Donald Fitterer, your defending champion, back-to-back defending champion, is going to start out of 10th, with Mike McCormick in 11th, and David Costello in 12th.
13th then for Barry Hills. Alongside him is Kenneth Dummer on the grid. Russ Addy, who's been somebody who's former champion, who's won multiple races, down in 15th. He'll be hoping for a good run in this race. Ernie Cancio there in 16th place ahead of the Canadian Bruce Poole. Randy Shoemake, who we've spoken to many a time on these broadcasts, down in 18th place. 19th for Dev Donnelly with Lewis Cannell in 20th place. Joel Martin, another one that we've seen up at the front, down in 21st ahead of David Riley. Gerhardus Jorrison and Wally Moulsby round out row number 12. No, yes, 12. I'll get there eventually.
And you can see in the background, we've got plenty of drivers, plenty of cars excited for this opening round of the championship. Very, very strong turnout. I say it, more people turn 60 every day. There is a growing pool of eligible drivers for this championship, and we've got a good number of them. As we continue looking down the grid, John Brown in 25th. Bit of a new name to me there, but Douglas Beasley, very familiar. Same to Bob Kern in 27th. Michael Bailey in 28th. Steve O'Malley in 29th. It's still St. Pat's Day, I guess, in your part of the world, not mine. But anyway, Gerhard Florison in 30th. Then JC Hay, David Traynor, Robert Love, Jerry Kerr, Richard Varley, Robert Isle in 36th. Let's look through all the way to our full grid with Gene Moore in 37th, Richard Coulomb 38th, Franz Brink, John Isles and Frank Butler, our full grid. And as you can see, no qualifying time from these last 4, and probably not entirely representative from 37th place Gene Moore either.
Yeah, and I think Frank Butler hasn't taken to the grid in this one, so we'll just have 40 cars, just 40 cars starting this race. So, yeah, this will be interesting to see how things pan out. I'm really looking forward to how this all works out here, because these drivers, well, they've had a week off. They've had the chance to get used to the new iRacing build, and yeah, looking forward to it.
So looking at front row there, Stefan Rostin, very easily identifiable by the purple wheels, the purple on his helmet. Gary Bystrom striking in black and red, looking very, very fierce with those red wheels on the outside. The trouble spots we're going to have to look out for in this first 18-lap race. Turn 1, you can use some of the runoff there, but these open wheel cars sit very, very low to the ground. You can beach them on that curb on the outside, so you've got to be careful when you go there. Big slipstream up towards the chicane at the bus stop at the inner loop. A lot of side-by-side there could make it a danger zone, and then anyone who's driven Watkins Glen, this corner here, rejoining the short circuit, very, very difficult. It's tight, it's slow, it's bumpy, and there's a bit of a crest on the way in that wants to upset the car, and then the walls are so close with the tunnel going underneath the track there.
Yeah, it's a really tricky corner. You go over that rise, and as soon as you go over that rise, the car wants to understeer, but at the same time, the rear wants to step out on you. For opening lap, of course, as well, you've got to watch out for is those cold tyres, so keep an eye out on those as we head for the start of this race.
Yes, indeed. Pace car about to pull in. Stefan Rostin, Gary Bystrom on the front row. The green flag waves, and season 18 of 60 Plus Racing Adventures is go, go, go. What a great jump from Stefan Rostin as they all still work their way around the final corner in this big grid. We saw a bit of 2 wide, bit of 3 wide at places as well. And Gary Bystrom is on the back foot here, polar opposite to this start from Stefan Rostin.
Yeah, Rostin has tried to get away. We've got a car off. Oh, and hopefully everybody else can avoid it. Oh, that's a big one. That is a huge incident. We've seen incidents like that happen at the top of the hill in the past. Still cars trying to work their way through there, but yeah, it's such a pinch point at the top of the S's there. It's an absolute nightmare to try and work your way through.
Yeah, it's fast, the walls are close. Cars that come into trouble often bounce back onto the track, and the track gets blocked quite easily there, and we saw that happen right in the middle of the field. A lot of cars needing to tow, a lot of cars going to fall off the lead lap at this point. That was a real shame to see happen. It comes back to what you said though, cold tyres on the start, and yeah, it's also a bit blind coming up there.
Yeah, it certainly is. We'll try and get a replay of the start then. I didn't quite catch who it was that had that initial incident, but yeah, it's such a difficult section of the track, and if one person has an incident through there and ends up in the middle of the track, like we saw, then you end up with absolutely nowhere to go. You've got a whole pack of cars, especially when it's a car relatively near the front. And by the way, Stefan Rostin was in the grass then.
Yeah, huge moment, and he feels the need to try and break the toe to Donald Poole, who has Gary Bystrom in third there. So early, Rostin is worried, very worried about the slipstream, and he did have a very difficult moment. This is what I'm talking about through turn 1 though. Some drivers stay within the white lines, others use that sort of runoff area, that paved area on the exit of the corner that you're allowed to use. Very popular to use that in a stock car, in a touring car, or in a GT car. But in these open wheelers, they sit so low, they bottom out easily. It is a big risk, as you can see the role that the slipstream plays coming up the hill. Rostin can't get away. Poole was also under a bit of pressure from Bystrom, and Ragnar Wisloff is in fourth. He is definitely still part of the lead train.
Right, we're going to try and in a second hopefully give you a replay of lap 1, because that was, as we go back to, there we go. Right, now I want
Who's in white?
Who's in white? Yeah, that's the question. And I believe we're going to be looking a little bit just further back. It's going to be one of these drivers here. Well, I'm basically selecting people who are on pit road right now. Kenneth Baldwin. So there was contact for Baldwin. That's what kicked it all off. There was avoiding action happening, and then he's just nowhere he can go. People trying to avoid it. That was a monster of an accident.
Yeah, I mean, someone got into the back of him there, and then when a car ends up sideways at that part of the track, it blocks half of the track, really narrows down the options where everyone else can go.
We're getting a full look at this one then. So you see that initial accident, bang! There you go, we've got cars just darting left and right, trying to avoid, and then, oh, huge one! They're still carrying on further round as well. I mean, there was only 17 cars who didn't have to go into the pits over that incident.
Go and collect yourself a free wheel and tyre there if you feel like it. They were strewn everywhere.
And this lap traffic, by the way, is now getting in the way of your race leaders. This is incredible.
Sure is. Still the same four, very, very close together. Roastgen from Poole, from Bystrom, from Wisloff. But you can see that it could bridge the gap between the breakaway four and the rest of the field. We then got John Morgan, Stump, Fitterer, Lawrence, Costello and Steve O'Malley completing your top 10. This is looking backwards from the leader, and it's certainly not the gap he had at the drop of the green flag, where he really had a good getaway. Since then, it's looked a little sketchier.
Yeah, he's not been able to break that slipstream, and you mentioned it. The slipstream is so important around this track. Not only that as well, but with this series, it's a fixed setup. So every team and every driver out there is using the exact same setup. So it makes it even more difficult to try and pull away from your competitors here.
Yeah, often a fixed setup will sort of lean to being a little bit more cautious, a little bit more safe. That means more downforce, more wing angle on the cars than they would run if it was a purely open setup, and that can often keep them even closer together. You see NASCAR doing that in an effect sometimes, where they mandate a particular size of spoiler for certain tracks or such. Poole is under pressure here from Gary Bystrom, though, who is going to pick up the double slipstream. This is about to get very interesting for your top three. It's too early in this race, I think, to get too risky. No!
Oh, no.
Poole lifted out of the throttle. Bystrom didn't see it coming, and the two have made contact. That has sent Donald Poole heavy into the wall and put a bit of damage on Gary Bystrom as well. Those two, well, we're going to see it from another angle, but Poole checked up and Bystrom didn't expect it.
Yeah, I think Bystrom was in half a mind as to whether to pull out or not, and Poole, meanwhile, is closing up. He backs out of it there, and that contact is made. Nothing that Poole... Oh my goodness, Poole got absolutely launched there in that one.
Yeah, really pinched into the wall there. A lot of damage for both of those cars. Really takes them out of contention. Not what you want to see in the mirrors for Stefan Roastgen, but it was sort of... Well, there was four in the bed, the little one said roll over. Now there's just two of them, Roastgen and Wisloff, and I think Roastgen is just close to being able to break the slipstream to Ragnar Wisloff here as well.
I'll tell you what, though, from whenever we've broadcasted these races here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures, Ragnar Wisloff has had the pace but not had the consistency, has he? And this is his opportunity to get some really, really good points to start the season off.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to do anything particularly crazy at this point. They've got time in hand. You can see John Morgan in green and white and Paul Stump immediately behind that. They're 2 seconds clear. Wisloff properly in the slipstream at this point. So I don't think he needs to do anything crazy right now. It's just him, Roastgen, and also maybe a little bit of traffic you can see up the road. That was the very, very unfortunate car of Russ Addy. He was... who got rear-ended right off the start and really, I think, triggered the big lap one incident. It's all action behind, though.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, we're focused so much on the front of the field, it's all spread out, really, back there. But look at this. They're going 2-3 wide further down. This is John Brown that we're keeping an eye on. He's just lost a place to Bruce Poole, and he's got David Riley and Bob Kern right behind him. So these are great battles further down in your order. This is over 28th to 30th place. So yeah, just because they're not at the front of the field doesn't mean that the action isn't good.
These are drivers who all towed at the second, third turn on the first lap. They've all rejoined the race, sure, a lap down, but in the same place as each other. So we've got a lot of battles, a lap off the lead, all those cars involved in the early wreck that have gotten going again. and they've all come out of the pits at the same time, just about. Here is a big look at my least favourite corner.
Oh, and we've got a car round. And is that Michael Bailey, number 73?
I would think so.
Yes, it is. So he's had an
several
issue.
reasons. Not my favourite corner. Difficult to brake for, difficult to turn in, and also difficult to pick up the power. The vertical curvature of the road changes significantly through the corner there, and that's often what causes the problems. Get a good look at the gears for John Brown here in 29th. How much of 6th gear is he going to get to use? Occasionally, sometimes you run out of a bit of gear. He's in 5th already, coming up the hill, trying to follow the wheel tracks, looking at the rain light on the back of the car in front and just pointing his nose towards it. Gets into 6th gear. You can see the rev lights. He's looking for the inside again.
I think it's more of a defensive move, because here comes the 23 of David Riley. Wow, round the outside.
A lot of bravery in making that move. And maybe the smarter defensive move would have been to stay in the slipstream instead of get out of it and cover the inside. But we'll take another look. Here he is with Riley right up behind him. He then lets Riley get to slipstream to have the speed to get around the outside.
Yeah, and that's where maybe, yeah, the 11 of John should have maybe held that inside line, got the slipstream, and then sort of moved across to defend. Robert Ahl now is the latest driver to end up in the pit lane. Worth noting, Paul Stump has made his way past John Morgan now, so up to 3rd place for Stump. He's a very quick driver, is Stump. Ragnar Wislov, he was within half a second a lap ago of your race leader, but he's not anymore. So that gap has pulled out the front.
Yeah, I can see a little sort of alert on my timing screen when it's within a second, when it's not. Wislov is just trying to hold within a second of Stefan Roschen. Meanwhile, you know, Morgan's obviously going to be within 1 second of Paul Stump there. Here it is, just, you know, close-ish between Poole and that'd be McCormick in front. Yeah, so the drivers who had to make a pit stop, here's a kind of 3rd and 4th of those.
Yeah, this is... it's crazy that... I mean, Robert Love started from pit road. He chose to start from pit road in this race and thought, there's going to be a big accident here. I'll start from pit road and maybe get a good result. I don't think he would have expected to have been in 12th place, would Robert, in all of this. It really has been a fortune favours the... Well, I wouldn't say brave because he didn't take the start, but the sensible.
Yeah, and it all comes down to that very, very refreshing paint job. But yeah, I mean, we had the big one on lap 1, unfortunately, and what that means is, of the 41 drivers we saw, only 14 haven't been through the pit lane in a race where, if things were going your way, you wouldn't go through the pit lane. This would be an 18-lap sprint, unless, you know, you pick up some very, very significant damage, which more than half the field had.
And that's one of the beauties of the series as well, isn't it? That you've got that free repair, that fast repair for you to be able to just, if you end up in an accident like we saw on lap 1, it just gives you that opportunity to have a reset, go again, get yourself some points from this first race. Because of course, second race, we've got further opportunity to score points and to get your points for this evening. So definitely the opportunities are there. John Morgan and Paul Stump were pretty close. I think it was more on slipstream than anything. So we'll keep an eye on this battle for 3rd, because it's actually the closest battle of the drivers on the lead lap.
Yeah, and it's a new qualifying for race 2 as well. It is a completely clean slate. No carryover penalties, no progressive grid, not even, you know, the same grid as race 1. It is a brand new, completely fresh, clean slate when we gear up for race 2 a little bit later. So there's probably a couple drivers hanging out for that race 2. But if you are Paul Stump and John Morgan, well, Paul Stump has ever so much, just a little bit of traffic in front of him to deal with, but he is +3 positions in this race so far. Huge winner from 39th on the grid. France Brink is up to 9th, so there are a couple of drivers making some hay while the sun shines, but that's difficult around the outside of the traffic on the final corner. Bit of caution was needed for Paul Stump there. I think it's cost him a bit of time. Donald Fitterer is right with them. He set the fastest lap of the race last time, and now he's gone and broken it again. Fitterer is flying. He's catching Stump and Morgan.
Yeah, Fitterer's on a charge here. He wants a podium place and he can smell it. And he's in that slipstream now, so he's got the opportunity to try and get up there with them. So I think Morgan realises he needs to start making some moves, and here comes the move. John Morgan to 3rd place.
Pretty easy done. Big slipstream, looks to the inside and gets clear on the way through the bus stop. Didn't see a whole lot of defence there, but it still allowed Fitterer in this red machine to be right up with them, right in the battle. All 3 cars you see here battling for position on the same lap, battling for that final step on the podium. Fitterer has been quicker than your leader Roaston 2 laps in a row now. But how quickly, how easily is he going to be able to clear these guys? I think the answer is not particularly easily.
No, it's as a great man used to say, catching is one thing, passing is quite another, and I think that's what we're going to see right now, because these John Morgan and Paul Stump are quick drivers. They are really quick drivers, so Donald will find it a little bit more difficult to make his way past these two and to try and keep it. A big slide there for Paul Stump through the penultimate corner, but you know, Fitterer, he'll maybe get past, but because of that slipstream, because it's so strong here as they go on to lap 10 of the race now, he'll find it difficult to break away from that slipstream.
Beautiful sunny day in upstate New York as well. We're racing from the morning towards the afternoon, and that means the track temperature has actually risen quite a bit as well. It was about 28 Celsius for qualifying, now up to 32 in the race. That could be making it a little slippery as well, and I think Paul Stump is just going to let Donald Fitterer have this one, but they're catching a lot of traffic that's not going to make that easy either. Fitterer backed out of it. Paul Stump holds on to 4th, and John Morgan is a bit clear in 3rd as someone has a big moment in the carousel.
That was David Riley. He's still there. Oh, he's being collected. Oh, that's a huge one. Another big high-speed accident. Kenneth Duma is the other one involved in that one.
Bill Lawrence too, from 7th or 8th place.
We'll have a look from Kenneth's speed, because Kenneth will have not seen anything of this. We're on board with him, and you know, you're coming round, everything's fine, then you'll get reports of a yellow flag, you come around the carousel, smoke, oh, where do you go? Not very, there's no way for you to go.
Yeah, and what we missed in that is where Bill Lawrence got involved as well, but obviously 3 damaged cars, not the ride you want to go on through the carousel.
Oh, Richard Coulomb. Are we in a situation where nobody wants to finish a race? Because Dev Donnelly as well. These were drivers on the lead lap.
Which race at Imola was that?
That was 1982? I can't remember now. Oh, I think that's just a miscommunication between the two of them. And it's caused damage.
Connery say action at a distance.
It's one way of putting it. Donald Fitterer is going for it now.
Yeah, absolutely is. Track's a bit clearer up in front, so Fitterer gets the inside and easily done. He was more cautious about that a couple laps ago because of the traffic, and fair play, because then, you know, we saw what happened to David Riley, maybe clipping a little too much of the grass or something. So Fitterer is through and up into 4th place, but through this last 2 laps or so, I think he's lost big time compared to Roaston and Wisloff at the lead, and even compared to John Morgan, who's managed to break the toe to these two as well.
Yeah, these two are pretty much together now. Yeah, John Morgan, 2.1 seconds clear. Because of these two fighting, they have really done well to just pull away and to just make it their own fight. But yeah, it's when you start fighting like this, and we see this time and again, it just slows everything down for you two, and that means that then you just end up losing that tail of the car in front that you were battling, and it allows them to pull away. So John Morgan will have been delighted that those two were busy squabbling over each other, but then yeah, this is now that fourth place. Can Fitterer catch up? I mean, there is time.
Yeah, but all the while, Stefan Rosten's just gone and set his personal best at 1 minute 42.7. So the podium is not out of reach by any means for Donald Fitterer, but this pace that he had a couple laps ago where you thought he could still get to the lead, I think where too much time has gone on where he hasn't been able to make progress swimming upstream, and that salmon won't get to the spawning grounds by the end of lap 18.
It was 1984 Imola Grand Prix, by the way, where they all ran out of fuel. So there we go, I've corrected myself.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's good. Knowledge. It's what
Actually
you
took
need.
place on your 20th birthday.
As Donald Poole and Mike McCormack are doing a pretty sterling job of keeping up this battle for 15th now. They were 19th for a while, but going for 15th or 16th places here. So this isn't where these two would have wanted to have been, but right now this is the best of a bad situation for them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to sort of give away faux championship points to the lap 1 incident championship, who's recovered most strongly from that of all the drivers who got involved? Well, these two have looked very, very confident since rejoining the race, and it's great for them to get these laps underneath their belt before race 2, which, as we said, is a completely clean slate. I wouldn't count out either of these two for a podium in race 2 with the kind of speed they've got. McCormack is only 1/10 off Stefan Rosten's best lap of the race. Donald Poole, likewise, only about 2/10 off Rosten's best lap of the race. They got the speed, but lap 1 and where they were on the grid just was not kind to them. While I said that, though, Donald Fitterer has caught John Morgan, and with his slipstream, Donald Fitterer has just set the fastest lap of the race, lowering or raising the bar, depending on your perspective, to a 1 minute 42.4. Fitterer coming on very strong still. He's got the pace.
He certainly has got the pace. He's got the pace of a champion, that's for sure. But yeah, Donald Poole, by the way, of course, had that incident with Gary Brystrom down the back straight, so he wasn't on that lap 1 incident. The best of the lap 1 incident drivers, Steve Greenwood in 14th place. Yes, you heard that right, 14th place for one of those who ended up in that incident in lap 1.
By the skin of his teeth, holding on to the lead lap as well is Greenwood. He's got about 7 seconds before Stefan Rosten would put him off the lead lap. That means 16 cars of 41 on the lead lap at this point, and a lot of that isn't down to pace. It is down to incidents, accidents we've seen, a bit of nerves on the first day of school.
Yeah, it's everybody after a week off getting back used to it. Lap 1, it's always tricky here on lap 1. Oh, that lap traffic has compromised Morgan here. This is Fitterer's chance.
He's going to go down the middle, 3 wide to try and take this podium position. And he looks to the apex, but that is very confident by Morgan around the outside line. He's got good speed, but then side by side up through the S's. Well, these cars can do it. Others might not be able to, but it's still sort of a risky proposition.
This is sensational. This is brilliant to see these two scrapping it out wheel to wheel. Morgan won't give this one up without a fight. Fitterer, we know, is a fast driver. Morgan's now just lifted out of it, and this has brought Paul Stump into it, although he got caught out by that lap traffic slightly. So I think that was Douglas Beasley. He had to work his way around. But that allowed just Stump to catch up that little bit to these two. But Fitterer to 3rd place. This has been a great drive from Donald.
Yeah, from 10th on the grid as well. So he's picked them off one at a time. He's going to need a second a lap at this point to be able to catch Ragnar Wisloff before the end, all with John Morgan probably being a difficult smell to get rid of in his rear vision mirror.
How do you see a smell in a mirror? But anyway, what we will see is Morgan. He won't get this one up without a fight. We know that from John's previous in this championship. He's now got the slipstream. The hunter has become the hunted, and Beasley and Fitterer has got to be worried about John behind. Although John doesn't get as good a run through the final corner as Donald Fitterer, and I think that's where Fitterer's just a little bit more confident, isn't he, through the turns, and it's just giving him that little bit of an edge.
I mean, there are some tough sort of medium speed corners here where, you know, it's a little dab on the brakes, a downshift or two, and then you've got to try to control the slide a little bit. Turn one, not so much, but the bus stop, the toe of the boot, coming out of the boot as well, and that final corner where the fastest line is to treat it like a street circuit and run right up towards that Armco and tyre barrier on the outside of the final corner. I mean, that separates who had their wheat bix from who hadn't today.
It's a classic track though. It's a brilliant track. I love racing around this place. It's on my top 10 favourite tracks to race around in iRacing, that's for sure, and it always gives us tremendous action around this track. But yeah, Morgan, you can't shake him. Morgan's there, he's using the slipstream, and it's working it to an effect.
Wisloff's had some good laps as well, just matching Roastgen, as you can see on the left-hand side, just staying about somewhere between 2.5 seconds off Roastgen. And Fitterer, well, he still needs to find about 3 seconds to be able to catch Wisloff, and the laps are ticking down. Leader's about to start lap 16, just 3 to go.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, but we'll show it on the graphics there. Franz Brink, 31 positions gained in this race. You could tell those drivers who were starting further back, who managed to work their way through all the detritus and the damage. Oh dear, we've got a car off in the gravel. That's Trainer, David Trainer. Oh, he can get back on, can he? Hopefully he'll get back up to speed and not get in anybody's way. He's lost enough a place to Robert Love and to Bill Lawrence. Bill Lawrence is on a recovery drive as well, after getting involved in an earlier incident. Now back up to 11th place.
It was Bill Lawrence that was one of the drivers that tagged David Riley in the carousel there about 4 or 5 laps ago. So I think he then... Did he tow at that point? I think he must have towed, taken the tow truck at that point. But critically, from further around the lap than a lot of the people who towed on lap 1, shorter trip then on the tow truck has saved him about half a minute or so, kept him within the top 15 or so, kept him on the lead lap.
Yeah, and he's doing well now, top 10 for him. Good recovery drive, and that's it. If you're involved in an incident, you can't let your head drop. You've got to just pick yourself back up and get back on the horse. That's what exactly he's done here, and quite a few others have done in this race. So get the most points that you can, because you never know what will happen in that second race. You might have another big one in the second race.
Someone famously once said, I get knocked down, but I get up again, never going to keep me down. And that's a good attitude to have in many, many things in life, but particularly racing, where the unknowns are big. You know, if you have a 50-point lead in basketball, it takes quite a bit for that to get, you know, evaporated. But a minute lead, a lap lead in motorsport can evaporate far, far quicker. There is no certainty, no comfortable amount of lead until the final lap and the checkered flag. We're riding on board with John Morgan. He's had a personal best lap last time, and he is really sticking with the slipstream to Donald Fitterer. Might he have a last lap lunge to try to strike back that third place?
He was lifting out of the throttle down that back straight there. So he's obviously wanting to be behind Fitterer onto the last lap so he can get the run out the S's, use that slipstream and go for it into the chicane. Because then time will run out, or time will be very short for Fitterer to reply to that. So that's the John with the old thinking man's racing happening there, and he's pushing on and trying to keep Fitterer honest here. In fact, Rosjan's lost a little bit of time at the front, and Wislov has caught up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out if that was last lap or this lap. Rosjan's obviously not had to push 100%, and therefore maybe playing it a little more cautious with what is abundant traffic for everyone in our top 5 at the moment. You can see it particularly here for Donald Fitterer, who's not getting the run he would like whatsoever out of the final corner. John Morgan, well, again, Ricardo Zonta, whoever that poor soul is, but Fitterer still holds on to third. Critically, he's taken a chunk out of Wislov though. It's now 1.8 as they've started the final lap. You'd want to be within 1 second on the final lap though.
Do you see that snap from Donald Fitterer then? Here we go. This is where John Morgan needs to make it count.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fitterer holds the middle of the road. John Morgan not lifting out of the throttle this time. He's going to look for the outside at the bus stop. He's got his nose in front, but you've got to be brave to get around the outside of Donald Fitterer in the bus stop. Not going to happen. What about the traffic? Well, Fitterer works his way to the inside of the carousel. And as they come down to the laces of the boot, that is going to help put a little bit of traffic between himself and John Morgan, who needs to be very, very brave once again.
Giving it everything, but this final lap, time's running out for him here, I feel, and he really is going to lose the opportunity. I don't think he's close enough to make any final moves here.
No. And Stefan Rostjan, well, it's the only driver on track running in the same position that they gridded up for the race, and that's because he gridded up first, got away to a little bit of a lead, and watched everyone else crumble and fall apart behind him. 2 corners to go for Stefan Rostjan, an 8-time 60 Plus Racing Adventures champion, and hasn't stood on the top step in a little while. Certainly hasn't taken a championship with this model of car, but he's off to a great start for season 18. Stefan Rostjan wins race 1 of 2 at Watkins Glen. Behind him, there are still positions to be decided. Donald Fitterer is going to hold off John Morgan, and a lot of the rest of the field are going to come to the checkered flag as they're off the lead lap.
Yeah, Randy Shoemake right behind Wally Moresby, just not able to make any moves there at the end. So there's still a few cars coming round on the lead lap. And Franz Brink, my hat goes off to you, sir. You just got to finish this lap now, and you're in 8th place.
Yeah, Dong Pool in 12th, last car on the lead lap, and as you said, Franz Brink, the number 53 in 8th, 31 positions gained. What a choose your own adventure puzzle he would have had coming up the S's on that lap 1. He's done a very, very solid job since then as the Club Scandinavia driver. Bit of radio chatter back and forth between Donald Fitterer and John Morgan, who both really enjoyed their races and enjoyed a little bit of racing pressure. They've had a good time, the resumption of racing. But apparently 9th, 10th and 11th isn't quite decided yet. Bill Lawrence is going to try to grab Jerry Kerr in a drag race to the line. Did he get there?
I think he did, you know. It's showing as 9th. My goodness, if he did do that, that's incredible.
Was gearing up for a photo finish there. Great run from Bill Lawrence out the final corner. My timing suggests he might have nicked 9th place there. We're going to get that confirmed in a second though as we look at the results from race 1. Stefan Rostjan controlled and in control from pole position to the race lead, leading every lap. Rostian is back in Season 18, potentially. Ragnar Wisloff, what a sensible, cautious drive to second place. Don Federer had to work for some of his positions, +7 to stand on the podium in third. John Morgan 4th, Paul Stump in 5th, David Costello 6th, Steve O'Malley 7th, France Brink, hard charger, big mover, whatever you want to call it. A great race from him from the very back of the field to 8th place. Bill Lawrence in 9th, Jerry Kerr in 10th. So Bill Lawrence, by that scoring, did get it. The last drivers on the lead lap, Steve Greenwood and Donald Poole. Then your top 20 is completed by Mike McCormick, Robert Love, John Isles, David Traynor, Russ Addy, Kenneth Baldwin, Barry Hills, and Wally Molesby.
Rest of your standings then. Randy Shoemake with Bruce Poole, Joel Martin, Gerhardus Jorison, Bob Kern, Gerard Florison. I always mix those two names up. And then Michael Bailey, Richard Valley, JC Hay, all 1 lap down. 2 laps down, Louis Canal with Dev Donnelly, Douglas Beasley, John Brown, who was actually having a good race to start with, had an instant and fell down the order. Robert Earl is 2 laps down. Then the rest of you drivers who did not finish: Jim Moore, Richard Coulomb, Kenneth Duma, David Riley, Gary Bystrom, who was battling for a top 3 finish, ended up in 39th, with Ernie Cancier in 40th, and Frank Butler did not take the start.
Yeah, so 40 drivers on the grid, 40 finishes, but some very, very different stories, some very, very different days up and down the grid. As we wrap up on race 1, we've got a bit of time before we head to race 2 here at Watkins Glen. So we are going to grab a quick word with our race 1 winner, Stefan Rostian. It's been a little while, I think, since we've spoke to you after a race win. You looked good today.
Yeah, I didn't find the entry to your office, but today I could.
We're very, very glad you managed to navigate the halls and knock on the right door. It seemed like when we went from the old Pro Mazda to this Indy Pro 2000, you might have struggled a little bit finding the limit of the car, finding the consistency, but to lead 18 laps at Watkins Glen to take the win in a fair bit of traffic. Were you lucky with this race 1, or has there been a change? Is there a new Stefan in the car for season 18?
Well, the car has changed a little bit this season. It turns better. When I drove it the first time, I thought, wow, what an oversteer, impossible to drive. But once I got used to it, I find it driving better. From the Pro Mazda, I liked how the Pro Mazda turned in. And biggest difference to the Pro Mazda was the Pro Mazda could be driven with full throttle always. Didn't ask if it is too much throttle or not, but this car here you really have to learn the throttle, and now I'm getting a little bit better on that. So I'm still far away from perfect.
How about those Cooper tyres on lap 1 of a rolling start, though? Do they still take a couple laps to build up the heat, build up the pressure, and give you more feel?
Yeah, I think in the first lap it's really terrible. You have to be very careful, and then second lap still not there, but third lap then it's good.
Well, it's a good thing that after the third lap there's still 15 more laps in the race for you to extend that lead. You're under a bit of pressure early goings when you were part of the 4-car battle for the lead, and then I guess all of the action for you today would have happened in your mirrors.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of draft here, and you can't get away. That is not so terrible as it was in the Pro Mazda, but still, if you have a competitor who is within, say, 0.5 seconds, you can't get away here with this car. Only if the guys are fighting themselves.
I'll say it now, just in case we don't get to say it later on in the championship, but for your sake I hope we do. Stefan Rostian, you lead the championship in 60-plus racing adventures. What's your thoughts leading into race 2 then?
Yeah, it's always a little bit luck. I will do my best. I will try to win that one, but you can never say. If you are in place 2 or 3 in practice and then you don't get the right start, then everything is gone very fast. So a little bit of luck will be necessary.
And I will wish you the best of luck, and maybe we'll see you some later races this season or later today.
Thank you much.
Well, from our winner, I think Paul Smith has got our second place finisher.
We will do when we drag him in here. Hello there, Ragnar. I think
Hello.
This is the first time that we've actually had the pleasure of getting you on the commentary. But well, what a result for you! Second place in the opening round of this championship. I suppose there's only one place that you can really improve on that now.
Well, that's true, but I think it's a pretty good start anyway for a 63-year-old rookie.
Yeah, it's not too often that you hear the word rookie and that next up, but in terms of this championship, certainly are. But how was it for you? You were in that fourth place. What did you see of that instant that happened in front of you? Because that was a hugely dramatic moment in this race for us in the commentary box.
Yeah, no, I was sitting maybe 10 car lengths behind them, and I was thinking, this will end in tears. And a fraction of a second later, they crashed, and I think one of them, needs a pilot's license. He was flying high up in the air.
And well, of course, we do get one more race in the evening. What are your thoughts on that? Are you looking at the top step, or are you thinking let's just go out there and have some fun?
Well, I have respect for the guys who usually run at the front. I had a moment with Stefan as well. We were side by side. I let him have that. I know he's quicker than me, so I would just unleash the tiger from the cage if I passed him. So I thought better to stay behind and secure that second.
Well, Ragnar, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth, and hopefully we'll get to speak to you again later on in the season.
Thank you very much. I hope so too, and thanks for commenting well, and I would like to thank the organizers as well for letting us have so much fun.
Thank you very much. Yeah, those are sentiments that we echo here in the commentary box. So that was second place driver Ragnar Wisloff. Sounded like joining us via satellite there. I do apologise about the audio quality on that. But David, let's wrap it off then with the hard charging Donald Fitzroy, David.
Hi guys,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Well, all the better for having seen you charge through the field from 10th up to 3rd. You had a lot of speed there. Is qualifying going to be the key for race 2?
Well, I'm probably not going to do race 2, and I just wanted to qualify a little further back so I can get some airtime with you guys. The last race, I hardly saw myself on the screen.
Well, you put a bit of a remedy to that in this one. Obviously, it's been said to we're blue in the face. A lot of slipstream here. You clearly used that well coming up the hill to set up a couple moves.
Yeah, I'm actually teasing about the airtime, but just it turned out a couple people in front of me crashed, and I was able to get through it, and then picked up some speed, probably from the draft, and just a little bit more practice because I haven't been practicing much. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What about Watkins, Glen? Some of the other corners around here are pretty difficult as well. Saw you have a little bit of a trouble through the final corner once or twice, and then there's the tight left-hander coming out of the boot section. Where's giving you the most drama here at Watkins, Glen?
I think it's turn 9, the left-hander. That's all I mean, nowadays with that car, with the changes in the car, you actually have to be on throttle as soon as you're off the brake for the left-hander, and just kind of modulating and getting ready to go full throttle, and you have to kind of choose when that's going to happen. If you do it too early, you're going to oversteer. If you do it too late, you're not going to have any speed coming out of there.
Stefan said some tweaks to this Indy Pro 2000. What's different from the driver's seat?
Again, there's a little bit more oversteer, But saving the car is so much easier now. But then again, when you get yourself in a position where you're not quite as precise as you should be, then you need to be able to save it. This is my home track. I live 40 minutes from Watkins, Glen, and I've actually driven my Corvette Z06 on this track.
Any advantage? Any advantage from that one?
Oh, only in my own mind. I doubt if there's any real advantage.
Well, third place, not a bad haul of points. Round one of what's going to be a long championship. Donald, are we gonna keep seeing you for this season? Can you make it three-peat Fitterer?
Well, I'm not really going to try. I'm going to get my second vaccine shot on March 30th, and within a week or two from that, I'm going to be traveling all around mountain biking in the United States. So I won't be able to make all the races this season.
There's a few of us that might be jealous, so wish you all the best of luck with that one, and we'll say congratulations on third place.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for putting it on. Cheers.
Was Donald Fitterer, our third place finisher from race one. Yes, race one of two. Don't go too far because race two isn't far away, and we'll see who learned something from race one to bring it towards race two. Can Stefan Rostgen go back to back, and was there any jokers in the pack that can avoid getting tangled in race two and really show us what kind of speed they've got? Looking forward to bringing you race two of 60 Plus Racing Adventures shortly. We're back at Watkins Glen for race 2 of this opening round of 60 Plus Racing Adventures season 18. And what a race race 1 was. This is a circuit that always puts on a bit of action. And while we are getting ready for qualifying for race 2, Stefan Rostjen had a great qualifying lap to take pole and made great effect of it in race 1. He's going to have the pace in this qualifying session for race 2. Clearly, if someone else can qualify well, that could put them in great stead for this second race. It's part of round 1 at Watkins Glen, and then the season carries on to Monza, Iowa, Nordschleife, Hockenheimring, and then we're going to be broadcasting round 6 at a circuit yet to be decided. This can be interesting. I wonder what it could be. And then Long Beach, Daytona Road, Laguna Seca, Phoenix, Spa, and bringing the championship to its close on the 2nd of June at Barber Motorsports Park. In Birmingham, Alabama, we're going to be covering that one live here on RaceSpot. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. But we cover a lot of great sim racing here on the RaceSpot channel, not just 60 Plus Racing Adventures, so it's an investment worth your time to subscribe to us here, and of course across our various social channels as well, where things have been getting interesting. Paul is with me here, David Haynes alongside Paul Smith, as the drivers get out on track for qualifying in race 2, Paul.
Yeah, certainly do. I thought we'd have a look at this man, the man who it was looking good for him for a podium position early on in the race, but then, well, we saw what happened between him and Donald Poole. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in qualifying here and see if he can get a good qualifying show in here for him.
So this will be starting the first of 2 flying laps for Gary Bystrom on board, as we heard from Stefan Rostjen that actually this first lap here, the tyres aren't really going to be where you want them. You might attack this lap, but also it would seem that you really want to take this as a banker and bring the tyre heat, the confidence, the temperature, the pressure through onto the second flying lap, where you're probably going to do your best work.
Still want to get a good sort of banker lap in, don't you, on your first lap, just in case on the lap that you really push, you make a mistake or drop a tyre onto the grass or something like that. So Gary's got to be really conscious of that and really think, get that banker lap in first, then really push on the second lap.
For sure. Here's one of those places where the rear might get a little leery, trying to put the power down coming uphill there. Sound like the off-throttle oversteer has become a far more prominent driving feature of these Indy Pro 2000s, so with that you want to be smooth with your inputs. It also sounds like coming through here at the left-hander, you want to turn in and then trail just a little bit of throttle all the way through until you can then open it up. It's looking pretty good for Bystrom so far, but then this run out the final corner starting the next flying lap, very, very important. It's a little bit of the curb down low, not sure if that's perfect, but it looks like this first lap is going to count, which is very, very critical. And then he rolls into his second lap, just 2/10 behind familiar name Stefan Rostjen at the top of the timing tower so far as the first laps trickle in from qualifying.
Yeah, this is where now Stefan will really, as he said to us in that interview, really push on and really go for it. So we'll see how he's doing with this. But yeah, this car with those changes, as Stefan was mentioning, it sounds like it's really going into more of his ballpark of how he likes to drive and his driving style. So that's real. Look at the speed that he's carrying through the carousel there, really pushing the limits of adhesion. This is good stuff to see.
Giddy up through the carousel it was. That is one of those places where as you get the confidence, you can really, really attack that in any car with a bit of downforce. use the bit of camber of the road to your advantage. It's more difficult through the boot section here, a bit more off camber, a bit more blind corners. And these two here towards the end of the lap, very, very challenging. Roastron now into uphill, left-hander. So easy to tag the grass on the way out there as well and cause a bit of an accident for yourself. We're going to start seeing those second flying laps come in. Donald Poole, obviously one of the first to put in that second flying lap. The timing column is going to swap around, but is this an improvement for your race 1 winner? Stefan Roastron, yes it is, but not enough to take pole.
I think that was Donald Poole's first lap, by the way.
It might have been. Well, that looks good for Poole then.
Yeah, just to really put the cat amongst the pigeons. Yeah, those second laps that are coming when the tyres are more in that operating window, and you think, oh yeah, that's when we're going to see those quicker times. And they were quicker. Roastron did improve, but Donald Poole, he is on it here.
Yeah, absolutely is. Is this going to be an improvement? Almost everyone else, it looks like, has finished their laps. So who could even take it away from Poole? You might want to improve on the second lap still, just to be sure. But the way it's standing at the moment, oh so close for the top 3. Roastron and Morgan aren't going to be able to take pole away from Donald Poole. Managing the slide of the car there in 5th gear and then out the final corner using a bit of 3rd gear, a bit of 4th gear. The run to the line is looking good for Poole.
It's a slight improvement, but not by much. Steve Greenwood is a driver who's on lap 2 as well. So this is really the top contender who could maybe challenge Donald Poole's time. This is it. This is the end of his second lap.
So Greenwood on a 1:43, looking to improve just 4 tenths to be able to take the pole. He can improve a couple tenths, and you know what? He matches the time of Bystrom, doesn't he?
Yeah, he got so close that time, but unfortunately not able to get past Bystrom. So tremendous stuff from Greenwood there. Here's Bob Kern. We've not been seeing him in that first race, really. But here he is. This is the end of his first lap, so he's got one more lap to go here, has Bob.
Still time left in the session to do it if you left pit lane a little bit later. Oh, he likes all of that paved runoff for turn 1. 25th for Kern after the first flying lap. A 1:45 in the bag is quite tentative. We'll see how much lap 2 can do for Bob Kern.
Yeah, can he get some progress forward? We'll have to see through the S's, through the chicane here. Tricky part of the track to get right, because if you catch one of those curbs wrong, it unsettle the car and you lose a ton of time as he plunges down the chute into this medium speed left-hander. It's a tricky corner to get right. He's leaving a bit of time on the table there by not just quite running as wide as he can do. Oh, it doesn't seem happy, and I think is he abandoning this lap?
I don't see why you would. I think there's still some life left in this to improve on a 1:45, but it did look a little unhappy, a little washed out at the toe of the boot there. It's looked tidier everywhere else, so I wouldn't give up on this. It doesn't look like he's given up on it.
We'll see how he'll go here. Through the left. This is a tricky corner because the car wants to push wide there, and you need to get the car over to the left as soon as possible to open up this final corner, and that is crucial because then you carry that speed all the way down this straight here.
And that ought to have been an improvement there for Bob Kern. It is, but only enough to move him up to 23rd position. So, didn't give up, and I feel it was still rewarded. Half a minute left in session. I think David Riley's about to cross the line for for one. See him there.
It's not an improvement there.
No. No, I think he might have... I think that might have technically been an outlap. I think he did one timed lap, and on the second lap went into the wall somewhere. So then when he's gone back out, it's counted as completing the second lap, even though he's gone via the tow truck and pit lane. So that's the end of qualifying for race 2. They're all going to line up behind the beautiful Porsche 911 safety car. All 34 of the drivers, it appears, that we've got for race 2. This happens sometimes. A couple squirrel away after race 1. Donald Fitterer sounds like he might have been one of them. But for our starting grid for race 2 in 60 Plus Racing Adventures, Donald Poole has the pole position just ahead of Stefan Rostgen, who also then finds himself just 5 thousandths ahead of John Morgan in third. Gary Bystrom can't repeat his front row performance, but he's still going to start out of 4th place. Again, 1,000th of a second ahead of Steve Greenwood. And then we've got Ragnar Wisloff on the back of a very respectable 2nd place in race 1, starting out of 6th place on the grid. It's Kenneth Baldwin, Paul Stump, Mike McCormick, Russ Addy, Randy Shoemake, and Bill Lawrence for the top 12.
As we look further back, it seems to be Bruce Poole seems to qualify 13th every time I get to talk about the qualifying. Dev Donnelly 14th, 1 second. So the first 14 cars covered by 1 second in qualifying. So that shows you how competitive the series is. Barry Hills and Ernie Cancio then in 15th and 16th places, with Joel Martin, one of the organisers of the series, in 17th, and alongside him is Michael Bailey in 18th. 19th place then for Gene Moore, who'll be looking for a better race this time out. David Riley in 20th place, with Kenneth Dummer and Douglas Beasley. Bob Kern, who we saw in qualifying, up to 23rd. Steve Isaacs in 24th place.
And then this is the rest of our grid. Gerhard Jorgensen, David Trainer, Jerry Kerr, Louis Cannell, Robert Love, John Arles, and then with no qualifying times is Richard Varley, Wally Molesby, Robert Isle, and JC Hay. That is the 34. But I tell you what, when you look at this angle of them all pulling away under the watchful eye of Barney, still looks like a lot of cars. One of them is on the pit lane there, though.
Yeah, I believe, I'm just having a look, that's Robert Love.
Robert Love.
Well, it worked for him in race 1, didn't it? So why not do it again in race 2?
There's always time to give Love a second chance. And I get what I deserve for that one, as the whole field follows the pace car speed. What a hum of activity it is for all of them, ready to launch into action at the end of this pace lap. Did anyone but Love not take the start here?
No, it's just Robert Love who's in the pit lane, and everybody else is out there on track. So 33 cars, well, 34 cars if you include the pace car, out there on track at the moment, with Robert Love started from the pit lane. Last race we did have one driver not compete at all, did not take the start, and of course Robert Love did start from the pit lane last time out. So hopefully we'll get a more cautious start this time around, and I think we will get that as well. I think that race 1 accident, it was just an anomaly through the S's, and I think the drivers this time, oh my goodness, have we lost a car? I'm sure we just had an accident.
Yeah. That is a problem for Kenneth Dummer, I think. 07? Yeah. Well, bit of pace lap shenanigans.
65. That's Gene Moore. So what's happened here? Oh, Gene Moore's had to anchor up and Kenneth has had nowhere to go but the back of him. This is incredible scenes before the start of the race.
Big avoiding move by Bob Kern behind as well. But yeah, they've all come through the carousel, and then a bit of a check-up. A bit of a stab on the brakes has occurred. It's not going well for Gene Moore or Kenneth Dummer, who look like they're going to miss the start. They're going to be in an even worse position than Robert Love, who's taking the pit lane start. Those guys who've taken the formation lap and then had to tow are still going to take that penalty of the tow truck ride. Wow. Bit of drama before the start of race 2. Shoes on the other foot for Stefan Rostian, though. Your pole sitter from race 1 is starting on the outside of the front row for race 2, and he has to watch what Donald Poole is going to do on this start. Barney has the green flag, and he dries the green tablecloth now as Donald Poole launches into action. Stefan Rostian follows along, and they're going to go side by side. Gary Bystrom is making a big move for 3rd place. Ragnar Wisloff looks like he's around the outside of Greenwood here. The whole field a little more spread out coming up the S's this time, and that's probably the safer way to go about it. Rostian is keeping the pressure on Donald Poole as well. Almost a bit of 3 wide.
Lost Michael Bailey
up the hill.
and Dev Donnelly, and that's in the S's, but not the big accident that we had in race 1.
Rostian into the lead. Big jump up the hill, following along behind Donald Poole, and he didn't even need to be the pole sitter to get to the lead on lap 1. Stefan Rostian leads this race. Donald Poole, I think, would be wise to follow along with him, try to shake some of the cars behind, because otherwise we are going to have a big train of cars contesting for the lead. That's not what you want if you're these two guys.
Yeah, the front two.
Poole! Oh, he's lit the rears up in the toe of the boot. Cold tyres. And that is on the tow truck on lap 1 for Donald Poole. Your pole sitter having a pretty torrid time of it. Just too eager, too excited, and a little too ginger on lap 1.
Well, we'll look at it on now. This is easy to do round here. This is a mistake that plenty will make. Does he clip the curb? No, it's just on the power, on the power. No, that's too much power. Around it goes. Oh, and he can't reverse it because of the pack just all working the way through.
Rostian.
And Rostian, what's on earth has happened to Stefan?
He's going very, very slowly. Is there much damage on that car? Has he had a wiggle as well? He's going for pit lane. First place appearing a little bit cursed in this second race. Stefan Rostian worked to the lead. I think he's had a spin. He's had a spin. That's hard on the left-hand side. Yeah, a lot of damage there for Rostian. Luckily, though, he will get into the pit lane, get that car fixed very quickly. But again, cold tyres, deadly on lap 1 if you're pushing too hard. Look at all those cars he had to wait for as well before he could get down to the pit entry. So now Gary Bystrom leads because big snap from Rostian.
Well, that was sliding partway through that penultimate turn. So he was feeling that all the way through there. So, yeah, Rostian, as you say, fortunately for him, was able to get straight onto pit road, get that repair done, and he's back out again. And he's going. Donald Poole, he's out the race. He's done for the day.
Yeah, Rostian's got that repair done, got back out. 32 seconds off the lead, but I think he's going to have a lot of laps in his future of just trying to pick his way potentially back up to the top 10. The good news for him, though, is that having won race 1, he's locked those points away. He's banked it. He is going to leave round 1 of the championship as the points leader, but at this point, at this stage even, it's looking like he'll be equal points leader with someone else. Who's that someone else going to be? Who can win race 2? Well, Gary Bystrom is leading, but he has a big tail of cars behind him. First through to 8th. That's this line we're looking at here as we look at it from on board. McCormick in 6th, yeah.
Yeah, he's still running the John Unsby tribute livery. Of course, John's still very much in our thoughts. John his family as well. Towards the front as well, John Morgan, he's putting the pressure on as well, but he's not making any moves yet. This is the thing, you don't want to make the moves too early. You only make those moves early if you are confident that you'll be able to pull away from the car that you've overtaken there. Oh, big moment there for Steve Greenwood. My goodness, the driver in the Macmillan Cancer Charity livery. That was a big heart-in-mouth moment for him.
Yeah, giddy up through the carousel. It just pushed a little wide. Tyres still maybe a little bit cold. He found there's a bit of a bump off that curb, but he managed to hold on to it. It was a wild bucking Bronco for a second here. So he opens up the hands on the exit, rides the curb a little bit. I think he ends up bottoming out on the curb. The car goes straight till he gets to the end of the curb and then jumps back into life. It did look a little bit beached on that exit curb for a second though.
Yeah, it did certainly sound like that, didn't it? Just the way that it sort of bottomed out and went straight. It had no effect with the turning of the wheels, so yeah. Steve, it did lose him a little bit of time. That's dropped them back from the front three. Now, if Wisloff, Morgan and Bystrom work together, they can try and pull away from the rest of this gaggle that's behind them. Bill Lawrence up in 9th place. He's having a good start to the second race here. He's dragging Randy Shoemake and Bruce Poole along with him. So they're having a fun down at the bottom end of the top 10. But look at this from Russ Addy through the S's.
Yeah, all of this for third place. Russ Addy going to look to the outside of Steve Greenwood coming to the bus stop. So who dares brake later? They're still going to try to hold it side by side, but eventually Russ Addy figures out he's not going to scare Steve Greenwood, and that brings McCormick, Baldwin right into the action as well. Great line through the carousel there for McCormick, it looked like.
McCormick doing a good job there, and Baldwin will just be hoping to get any points, any decent points out of this one after having his race one curtailed on corner number 3. And he'll be he's in 7th place right now as Baldwin. He's in a good spot right now to potentially get himself some good points early on in this championship.
Rift starting to form between 3rd and 4th though. Your top 3 are tucked right amongst each other. Gary Bystrom, John Morgan, Ragnar Wisloff. And then this back and forth with Greenwood and Addy, and that moment we saw for Steve Greenwood as well is just letting the top 3 have a little bit more breathing room than they had initially. Oh! Whoa! Tokyo drift moment for Russ Addy. Caught the grass on the way into the final corner. Did the right thing, stood on the brakes and was able to correct and save that. That was headed for the barriers very quickly.
Save of the day right there, I think. We'll have a look on board. This is a little bit higher than what he'll see of this, but you'll see you go through this left-hander here. You want to get it over to the left-hand side as much as possible. That's a little bit too far there, Russ. Stamps on the brakes. Has to lock up a little bit again just to avoid a couple of those cars coming through, but amazingly is able to keep going.
Yeah, that onboard replay brought to you by whatever blood pressure medication your doctor is going to prescribe you. Yeah, that was scary. That was a very rapidly unfolding situation. And I tell you what, it was a good save to keep it off the walls, no damage on the cars, but having to stamp on the brakes like that, lock up all 4 to arrest the slide and kill the rotation, that is going to have damaged the tyres in a way that you will notice from behind the wheel.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of heat suddenly be put through those tyres, and with the way that the tyres work here, if you get those heat through there, it'll take a while for you to lose that heat. And speaking of heat, 29 degrees track temperature is quite cool actually, is that track temperature. So Russ should get a little bit of life back into those tyres maybe in a lap or 2.
Yeah, talking about the rear a little squirrely on these cars, that kind of thing doesn't help them, and then you end up having the same kind of problem again. Here's the lead, looking backwards from Bystrom at John Morgan, at Ragnar Wisloff. All 3 of them covered by just 8 tenths here, And that's going to be even closer by the time they've gotten to the top of the S's and down towards the bus stop, because Morgan will be closing up on Bystrom. Wisloff will be getting that double slipstream, and now it's 6/10 to cover all three of them, 5/10 to cover all three of them. Bystrom following the middle of the road for a bit there, just doesn't want to give an opportunity for John Morgan to think about taking the lead just yet.
Yeah, he's I think these drivers right now are playing it smart. They're not squabbling over each other. They realise that they've got an opportunity to get themselves a little bit of a safety net behind them so that they could keep themselves in a good spot. So this is what you need to do. This is like a thinking driver's race right now. So many times you'll see it in races where cars will start squabbling and start slowing each other down because the car in front's taken a defensive line. The other car's then compromised as well, and before you know it, you're 4 or 5 seconds a lap slower because you're too busy concentrating on fighting yourselves than looking ahead and thinking of the bigger picture.
Look at those gold flames. I've seen red flames, I've seen blue flames, I've seen yellow flames, but gold flames is he actually going to light up the rears rather than just the paintwork for Kenneth Baldwin right in the middle of a good scrap in the top 10 here. McCormick and Addy in front of him, Stump and Lawrence behind.
Lawrence has actually caught up this gaggle of cars as well. He's broken away a little bit from Randy Shoemaker that you see in the background of the shot. So, yeah, Lawrence has tagged himself onto the back of this train of cars. So this is really, really good.
It's also got that helmet that reminds me I need to go to the shops today. But so close up the top of the S's here. Absolutely flat in these cars means you're sucking up in the slipstream of the other car. Ross Addy's going to make the move on Mike McCormick, but Kenneth Baldwin thinks about following him but isn't close enough to do so. And Paul Stump in green and yellow comes into picture as well.
Very Lotus-esque livery Paul Stump has got on there, so yeah, harking back to the 1960s when Lotus had that classic British racing green with the yellow stripe down it. Yeah, that's very much a throwback livery right there for him. But yeah, it's going good so far for Stump in the second race. In the 8th place, he'll be wanting to progress forward though, because he did have a better race result in race 1.
This is looking good in race 2. A lot of good battle packs in the top 10 here. That, another little sketchy moment there for Paul Stump. I think he tried to turn in right as the front of the car gets light over the crest and it pushed wide a bit on him there. And then the rear gets taily in these last 2 corners. So the balance of the car all over the place for these drivers at Watkins Glen. It's bumpy, it's got some hills, it's got some blind corners, and then the exit from turn 1 here, you really slipstream up behind some other cars. But here's a problem for David Traynor. A lot of damage on the front right of that car. Has he had some help? Has he done that by himself? Let's look at the replay.
I think JC Hay has got involved in this one as well. The 89 car, there he is in the Arrows orange livery. So head on down to this the heel. Oh, just right into the rear. Get caught out by the braking there. And David Traynor ending up missing a wheel. We'll look back at that from on board, see what happened here from the point of view of David. Oh, now you see that's... I don't like it when people do that, when they pull across the front of your nose into a braking zone. He's driven that back, by the way, with the wheel hanging off.
Well done, you good thing. It's going to bring all the pieces down to the pit lane. And I agree with you, whether the other car, you know, braked a little early or not, it's a risk you take and a lot of faith you put in the other driver if you're going to come across and then immediately put the brakes on. In racing, it's a little bit touch and go. Definitely something you wouldn't do in your car out on the road with a truck. Oh, bit of lawn mowing there.
Kenneth, that was Kenneth. Baldwin loses the position to Stump there. Yeah, that was a big moment. I'm glad you caught that because that was completely out of my line of sight.
Yeah, so Kenneth Baldwin, that's not going to put the heat on his tyres. It's going to put a bit of grass on his tyres potentially there. He did lose out to Paul Stump, and it lets Addy and McCormick get away. You can see how much further up the hill they are than these three who look like they might squabble a little with each other. And right on cue, Kenneth Baldwin pulls out of the draft from Paul Stump. Bill Lawrence is picking up a big old slipstream here. Isn't going to make it 3 wide. Wise head on those shoulders. Stump holds on. Baldwin has a big slide through the bus stop there that costs him a bit of time, and Bill Lawrence still just waiting.
Russ Addy and Mike McCormick just in front of those as well. We're battling into the bus stop chicane. We're on the halfway point of the race at the end of this lap, so we've got half the race still to go, and yeah, it's certainly been a good, enjoyable racing. John Martin's just dropped down a couple of positions. I think he's had a moment through the carousel, but he's without damage, it seems, so carrying on.
As a bit of a wide gets bowled there through the toe of the boot, as we've seen many driver do. This is the battle for the lead though. Gary Bystrom leading, John Morgan in second. Ragnar Wisloff we spoke to after race 1, where he said he was very, very patient, doesn't really want to get mixed up in too much if he's just riding along with some quick guys at the top. But surely you want to poke him to have a go in this one. He's got second place points already locked away. What's the harm in having a bit of a dig, having a bit of a go, watching Bystrom and Morgan and Wisloff riding along in third?
Yeah, Morgan's just hanging back, avoiding that first curb is Morgan, I've noticed. So he's maybe he's just saving his car, looking after the car and the tyres. But yeah, Wisloff, you're absolutely right here for Ragnar. He's only got one potential place to improve on for his result for this week. So as long as he makes that move safe, and he has said that, you know, he's playing that patient game. If he can do that safe, then he could potentially come away with a race victory in race 2.
It is an interesting place to be, and an interesting psychology that is created by, you know, your best of 2 sort of point situation. Third place in race 2 does nothing for Ragnar Wisloff, except, you know, maybe pat himself on the back about 2 podium positions and being able to steer clear of too much trouble so far. Points wise, third does nothing for him. Now, Bystrom and Morgan, I think, have quite a bit more to lose in this circumstance here.
Well, of course, John Morgan was going for a podium, wasn't he? So in that last race, so he'll be wanting to keep a podium here at a minimum and improve his points. But yeah, Gary Bystrom did not finish that first race after that incident up this very straight here with Donald Poole. Getting caught up by Poole, just backing off the throttle out of the slipstream. Look at that Morgan, just getting close and then backing out. Again, it's that word, patience. They know not to try things silly, anything silly now. Push it towards the end of the race as Stump and McCormick have been battling, and Russ Addy is involved in all of this as well.
Yep, Addy in black and yellow, Stump in those sort of Team Lotus colours, and then Kenneth Baldwin with my favourite gold flames. It's a late apex for Paul Stump there, and I thought that was going to work for him, but it doesn't quite. He could make some overtaking moves in this part of the track. That doesn't seem to happen that often when you've got such a free kick opportunity coming out of turn 1 up the S's and towards the bus stop. That's where we see drivers kind of waiting to make their moves there. He's found the wall there as Mike McCormick.
don't think he did, you know.
I heard it.
Yeah, that front wing is bent. Yeah. And that car does not
I think the
seem
suspension's
happy.
not great either. Lost the rear, picking up the throttle, got into that slide, did the right thing. You know, when you spin both feet in, locked up the brakes, but unfortunately the wall's a little too close here. It starts sliding and then he locks them all up. You try to tell me you didn't hit the wall there, come on. Who are you trying to fool, Paul? I mean, it's easy to tell from that angle, not the live angle, but yeah, that was quite the bonk.
Yeah, but he's got himself onto pit road. He's just got to find his pit stall, get his free repair, watch that car magically get fixed, or when he finds it, gets it, there you go, and away he goes again. So that's, again, we mentioned this in race 1, we'll mention it again. That's one of the beauties of this league, is the fact that you get, if you do make a mistake, you get the chance to get a repair and get another stab at it later on in the race.
Well, the top 3 unchanged in name and order. What is interesting to see is how powerful that double slipstream can be for the guy in 3rd place. Ragnar Wisloff has the fastest lap of the race, and it's not even close. He's had a really good lap earlier in this race where maybe he was a little bit further back, really closed up on these guys, and then had a good finish to the lap. But Bystrom, what aggressive livery that is, black and red with the yellow striping on it. And I detect a hint of a spec map as well.
Yeah, there's definitely matte effect on that. I like it myself, actually. I like this livery. But yeah, you don't need a graphic to tell you which car we're on board with, that's for sure.
It looks like a can of energy drink.
Yes it does. As look at this now, Morgan. Again, just getting himself in that position. Is he going to back out? Oh, he's going for it, you know.
Definitely is. Wisloff will get closer as this goes on. It's tough to call here. You know, you have your nose in front around the outside, but you need to be a long way ahead around the outside if you're going to take the lead, as John Morgan has just discovered. If it's, you know, nose to nose, side by side, the guy with the inside is probably 9 times out of 10 going to take that one away. But Morgan, well, he had a good go, didn't he?
Well, that's the first sort of warning shot, isn't it? Now this is a case of, right, Gary, I've got you my slipstream. I'm showing you what I can do, and you know, start those mind games now. Start getting Gary looking in his wing mirrors, because we're getting to that point now where you need to start making those moves and start making that leader move about, get off his normal racing line there, so that then it compromises their line into the chicane or compromises their line through a corner. Think 3, 4, 5 corners ahead to make a move. If you compromise a driver in one section of a track, you can then compromise their line all the way through. The classic one is Suzuka, through the S's at the start of the lap. If you could get somebody to compromise their line through that first left-hander, it affects them all the way through towards the Degners. So it's that thinking person, that thinking driver's game right here now. Start moving about, start making them make mistakes.
Bystrom had a little bit of a slide in turn 1, Morgan too, but now look how much more defensive Bystrom is going to be. Not middle of the road, all the way to the right hand side to try to hold on to the lead. Problem for
I think that's
Baldwin?
more of a
No,
connection problem. Yeah, I think that's a connection thing more than anything for Baldwin. That's why he temporarily moved down. But this is the driver who's got the best view in the house. Best seat in the house here.
Yeah, for Ragnar Wisloff, he's been scored in 3rd place almost every lap of this race so far. Really consistent to stay with these guys. Even by his own words, if he doesn't quite have the pace or the experience for some of the other drivers. Every time we've seen him race 1 and race 2 so far, to drop out of the slipstream takes a mistake. He hasn't made any. He's still right with these guys. In fact, it almost looks like he's making Morgan start to worry, start to defend a little bit.
Yeah, so Morgan's in that tricky place, isn't he? Because he needs to attack in front, but at the same time, got to be concerned about the driver behind. That is one of the most difficult places to be in a race, is in the middle car. And Ragnar Wisloff right now, he's having the time of his life here today. He's having a great opening to this championship.
Yeah, what a run through turn 1 there as well, when Morgan and Bystrom might have used up a little more of their tyres. If you're Wisloff, you maybe don't want Morgan to defend too hard. They are going to really compress up this 3-car battle. Well, does that look like Wisloff's going to try to have a go around the outside of Morgan?
Whoa!
No, they've come together. Bit of a slide from Wisloff. Puts him into Morgan and puts Morgan on his roof, I think, there.
I think he is on all wheels, but let's have a look. And we know for a fact that Ragnar will have not wanted that to have happened here, but let's have another look at that one then. And it just goes to show how difficult it is to make this move around the outside.
It's this second curb here as well. You're probably going to see Wisloff bottom out and slide a little sideways. Yeah. And that's big contact and then big contact with the wall. That guy's got his camera ready, I think. I hope he got a good shot. I'm getting mixed messages on the weather. A lot of people in shorts, a lot of people in jeans. Make up your mind.
This is going to be an interesting shot. This is what Morgan sees. He's leaving the space. Oh! And there's not a lot of runoff there either. And he's realised, oh, I've got a wheel missing here.
Yeah, can't really walk off that one. Yeah. Ouch. He's made a bit of a reliant Robin of it.
Well,
I know the one wheel's at the front, okay? God, that's where you were going to go.
Well, actually, where I was going to go is Kenneth Baldwin finds himself in 4th place here. And look at the gaggle of cars behind him. Russ Addy, Paul Stump. Bill Lawrence is just hanging around behind here.
Yeah, our top 3 evaporates, but 4th place, close as they have ever been. Side by side for 4th, and then really backing out of it here. Paul Stump lets Bill Lawrence through to maybe he'll make an attack on Addy and Baldwin, who really went side by side there.
Yeah, Stump realised that Lawrence had the run with the slipstream and thought, right, after you. We've got plenty of time left. There's still about 2.5 laps left in this race, so he was thinking the bigger picture and thinking, I maybe don't want a piece of the action here.
No, he's got a great view though, and maybe he's anticipating a little bit of trouble. That wouldn't be, well, I think it's short odds on that one. A little bit of trouble in a battle like this towards the end of the final race of the week.
I'll say, one of the names that we've not seen that often, Steve Greenwood, I believe is a new name for us in the championship. 3rd place. It's a really good going in this opening week of the championship.
Yeah, first couple laps he was definitely in some of the battles here, and then he managed to break away, and he's made really good on that. He's left Addy and Baldwin in this lot in the dust. In fact, he's really not that far off Ragnar Wisloff either, who doesn't appear to have anything like the damage that we saw.
I was about to ask, will Ragnar Wisloff have any damage to that car? And will it be affecting his top speed here? I can't see any really.
Nah, I doesn't see it, nah.
Nah, that seems fine, does that car? He's got away with that lightly.
Oh. A little bit of action on the way into the bus stop for David Riley and Bob Kern.
Yeah, this is all battling over 12th place. They're squabbling away. Penultimate lap. Bob Kern up to 12th with the move on David Riley. If David stays there behind, he's got an opportunity on that final lap to maybe get the move back on him. McCormick is in the pits and he is out.
And this is why. Into the bus stop. Rear very loose. A lot of the first curb, a lot of the second curb, but too much of the third curb. Nose first into the wall.
Here we go then, start the final lap. Your leaders are going through. It's this battle for 4th place that you want to focus on.
Yeah, sure is. Bystrom in the lead, has gap to Wisloff in second, to Greenwood all on his own in third, but still anyone's for 4th place here. Bill Lawrence in 6th has just set his personal best lap of the race. So who is going to get a good run? Who is going to slipstream their way maybe into 4th place? Bolden's actually a little bit off Addy at the moment, but he's still going to try.
And he's got some lap traffic there helping him along the top of the hill as well, and that lap traffic's going to get in the way here. This could affect Baldwin.
Yeah, that's a free kick for Russ Addy as well. Hasn't let Baldwin have a look at him. Bill Lawrence, who we ride on board with, doesn't know which way to go. The answer is down the inside at the laces of the boots, or is it? Oh, it is eventually. This has been very, very fortunate timing for Russ Addy in 4th. Hasn't been so great for Bill Lawrence though, because Paul Stump, who gave up that position earlier, might just try to come back for it.
Yeah, but, leader coming in towards the penultimate corner, did everything that he needed to, and it's worked out for him nicely.
Race 1 didn't go his way, but for a new season of 60 plus racing adventures, it looks like Gary Bystrom is going to take the win in race 2 and make himself equal leader with Stefan Rostian after 1 round. So a great win for Gary Bystrom, ahead of Ragnar Wisloff and Steve Greenwood. Well, we've seen drag races out of the final corner before. Russ Addy is under pressure from Baldwin, but it's not going to happen. Lawrence is going to hold on for the position from Paul Stump as well.
And David Riley, I said he could make the move on the last lap, and that's exactly what he's done here. And he's moved ahead of Bob Kern on this last lap and ends up in 12th place to David.
Less cars on the track, more cars on the lead lap in race 2 though, means that there's still some coming around, and one of them, unfortunately, is John Morgan. He's just managed to stay on the lead lap, but his hopes of a podium sort of went up in dust in the bus stop just a couple laps ago.
I will say that I think you were absolutely right about what happened to Ragnar, because he did go across that curb and it did seem to just bottom out, and as soon as it does that, it acts like a canoe and it just goes straight at that point. You can't do anything to turn the car when you're over the curb like that, and that's the risk that you take with going with that move around the outside. I'm sure he'll be the first one to apologise to John. And that's also the nature of this series as well. The drivers will hold their hand up and say, "Yep, nope, that was my mistake," and that's what will happen here. But that's the last of your drivers on the lead lap.
So then, let's take a look at the results from race 2, where your winner was Gary Bystrom. 3 positions gained from 4th on the grid. Ironically, qualified better in race 1, but raced better in race 2 to grab a win. Ragnar Wisloff in 2nd, and Steve Greenwood quietly chipping away in race 2 completes the podium. And then, well, you can see quite a bit of gap to one of our cracking battles in this one. Russ Addy finishes 4th ahead of Kenneth Baldwin, Bill Lawrence, Paul Stump, and then Bruce Poole, Randy Shoemake, and Barry Hills was the top 10.
Louis Canal then finishing off in 11th place ahead of David Riley, who made that move on the last lap ahead of Bob Kern. Jihadis Yorison in 14th place again, only half a second. You look at the gaps between cars, it always seems to be a car or two together. out there on track. Joel Martin 15th then. Ollie Moulsby rounded out in 16th ahead of Steve Isaacs, with Stefan Rosgen. Lap 1 mistake, had to go to the pits, ends up 50 seconds behind your race leader in 18th place. Richard Varley 19th, and John Isles rounding out your top 20.
And then 21st was Robert Love, Jerry Kerr, and John Morgan. Could have been battling for the podium, but instead is the last car on the lead lap in 23rd. Not sure he was too happy with that one. And then Douglas Beasley, Ernie Cancio, David Traynor, we saw, well, one of the incidents that put him a lap down. And then Dev Donnelly in 27th, JC Hay 28th, Gene Moore and Mike McCormick. Rounding out the grid is some DNFs, Robert Isle, Donald Poole, Michael Bailey, and I don't think we saw a start from Kenneth.
No, we did.
Duma. We did? Okay.
Yeah, it was Michael Bailey and Kenneth Duma who had the incident on the warm-up lap. If you remember going down into the chute on the warm-up lap, and, well, Michael Bailey was one of those involved. It was Jim Moore, of course, who had to hang on to the anchors, and yeah, Kenneth Duma was involved in that.
So for that, would you say we saw him take the start or not?
He took to the pace lap.
Sorry, I'm nitpicking on this one. Bit of back and forth with some of our drivers as they try to give directions to each other to get to the commentary box. But who we do have is Ragnar Wisloff back with us again. Well, you're going to get a tattoo that says second place finisher after this one, because it seems like that's how you run at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, looks like that. And maybe I'll need to speak to Danny Ricciardo to find out about the tattoos. I don't know. I have a bitter taste in my mouth because of the incident with John Morgan in the chicane. That I bounced off the curb and hit him. That was my mistake.
We saw you just, true to your race 1 form, so patient, getting the draft off the leader. What was the thought there to just go for it with a couple laps left?
Well, I was getting closer. We tried a couple of times, and then I hung back. But then, well, it was a free run on the left-hand side, and it looked I wouldn't be able to get P1, but I was ahead of John. But there just wasn't room for 2. I didn't make room for 2. It was my mistake. Sorry about that. What did it look like? I mean, I guess you've dissected it online, but what did it look like? I haven't seen the replay.
Well, basically what you said looks like bottomed the car out a little bit on the second curb, and we saw a few drivers bottom out the car on some of the curbs in some places. So, yeah, maybe carried in a little bit too much speed for that one. Yeah,
I probably did. Too hot. Rookie mistake.
What about our front row of the grid? Both of them losing it on the cold tyres on lap 1. Is that something you really felt in this race? Was it the same from race 1 to race 2, or was something making it a little slipperier in this second race?
No, to me it was the same. They have, for season 2, iRacing has changed the car a little bit. It's got less downforce, aero downforce, and you really feel the back end wanting to step out more under acceleration in mid and high speed corners. It's easy to get caught out on cold tires.
Well, it certainly handed a couple of positions to you. You've come from 6th on the grid to battling in that podium position to grab 2nd. Thoughts on some of the tracks we're going to later in the season? I know we've got a question mark for round 6 that we're going to be broadcasting. What about Monza, the Nordschleife, Hockenheim Ring for the first time? A lot of interesting tracks coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And the Hockenheimring, I've tried that. We've had a couple of test races, and that's a very good track. Being European, I like the European tracks, wide and smooth. Suits. I think they suit this car maybe better than the traditional American ones.
Well, congratulations on potentially being the only double podium finisher today. Certainly you made second step on the podium your place. You might have to take some tips from Max Verstappen then on stealing that chair and taking it home. But thank you for chatting with us after both races, and I hope we see you again later this season.
Well, thank you very much, and hope to see you again.
We're definitely going to see a lot of him if he keeps finishing in second place, Paul. And we have one more.
We certainly do. Let's bring him into the commentary booth here and say hello to Steve Greenwood, who finished this race. Oh my goodness, I'm getting overlapping graphics there. There we go. We'll fix that. But Steve Greenwood in the Macmillan Cancer Support charity car, third place. I mean, how did you think that today went for yourself?
Well, the first race was a bit of a disaster. But the second race, yeah, it was quite good. I was a bit fortunate that, was it Mike, dropped out near the end. But apart from that, pretty uneventful, really, to be honest.
Well, you were in that little bit of a no man's land, weren't you? You just fell back from that front pack, and then you managed to get yourself away from the cars behind you. Was it just a case of just keeping your concentration, keeping focused, and progressing forward in this race?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I lost the draft. I can't remember how I did that now, but something happened. I lost the draft, and after that, I just couldn't catch them. I don't think our lap times were differing by much, but obviously, I wasn't quicker. But the guys behind, I think they were battling, weren't they?
Yes, they were. They certainly were. That was certainly what was happening there. Yeah, you were very much. We showed you a few times on the broadcast, but yeah, you were very much just in that no man's land there, with nobody really to battle with. But sometimes with an event like this, and especially with when we saw what happened in race 1, lap 1. If one big incident can affect your first race, but that's the beauty of this championship, isn't it? That second race, you've got enough opportunity to get some good points.
Yeah, that's right. It's quite unusual, that, isn't it? I mean, this is only my third race with them, and I was quite surprised when I found that out.
And just to finish off, you mentioned that it's your third event with the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. How are you finding the series? Because whenever we speak to anybody, it's always about what a good sort of camaraderie there is in this championship, and help and support throughout the championship.
Oh, it's a great bunch. I mean, it's hard to it's pretty much like the Spec Racer Ford forum in iRacing. You know what I mean? It's you just ask anybody and they'll help you, and they're very friendly, very welcoming. I'm really enjoying it, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've got about 20 odd years before I get a chance to race in this series, but
all right, rub it in.
But well, I'm jealous. I want to race in it, but podium finish though. That's pretty damn good going, and we'll look forward to seeing you for the rest of the championship. And who knows, we might see you back in the commentary booth for an interview in a few weeks' time.
Hope so. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. There you go, David. Great third event, and to be on the podium, that's a tremendous achievement.
Yeah, what an interesting form guide we've had from round 1. Great win for Stefan Rostjen, Ragnar Wisloff finishing twice on the podium, and Steve Greenwood there just running almost his own thing most of the laps of race 2 and getting a good haul of points out of it as well. So I think it all points well to strong participation and some good racing, and hopefully a championship fight that goes down to that final round as well in 60 plus racing adventures. So that will then bring to an end our coverage from round 1, season 18 of 60 plus racing adventures. I very, very much enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this season to see how they go at a track yet to be decided for round 6, and of course Barber for the season finale. Subscribe to us here on RaceSpot because you will catch that coverage as well as much, much more. I've been David Haynes, Paul Smith with me here on RaceSpot for 60 plus racing adventures.